In this video, we're going to be taking a look at Vacuum. Now, Vacuum is one of the synths that comes with Pro Tools, and it emulates a classic analog monophonic synth with valve technology built in. We're going to follow this through in terms of the signal flow. So we'll start here with the oscillators. We have VTO1 and VTO2, that's vacuum tube oscillator. These feed the mixer, so I'm quickly going to turn down VTO2 so you can hear clearly what I'm doing. We have the oscillator wave shape, which can go from triangle wave to saw and to a pulse wave of 50%, which is actually a square wave. And this can go all the way to almost a 0% pulse width. And as you can hear, it seamlessly blends from one to the other. Then we have the range control. The terminology for range comes from actual true organs, and you could set it to 2 foot, and this is going to be a much higher octave. This would be a much shorter pipe on a true organ. And we can take it all the way down to 32 foot. Let's put it back to 8 foot for now. Then we have the fine tuning control. This is a very slight amount of pitch shift. Unless I set this to wide. Now when I set this to wide, the fine tune now becomes a much more rough tuning control. You can listen. So you can actually get the VTO1 to go the entire way through the frequency spectrum. I'll just put that back to 8 foot for now. VTO2 has very similar features. We can see we have slightly different shape options. We still have pulse wave and saw wave, but instead of triangle we have noise. Also, the range here goes not down to wide but to low, and once it's this low, VTO2 is essentially behaving like an LFO, low frequency oscillator. There is one of those as well in Vacuum, but this kind of gives you a second. If I play this, it won't make particularly pleasant sound. So let's put that to 16 foot and blend VTO1 and 2 together. We then have the ability to go to the mixer stage and add in a certain amount of VTO1 and 2 outputs ring modulating each other. The output of that is just fed in with this control. And we can then add a sort of valve overdrive element to the sum of all those 3 signals. We can fatten it up just before the filter stage. The filters are here. We have VT, vacuum tube again, high pass filter, so I could remove the lows from here. And I have the low pass filter here, with of course resonance controls on both. Both of these have key tracking capability. With this turned up as it is, the filter positions will follow the MIDI note, so high notes will naturally sound much brighter than low notes, and vice versa. We'll look at the envelope controls in a minute when we get to this section. We can also add a saturation stage to both of these filters. Then we get to the age control. Drift adds a sort of tuning drift to your VTOs, and dust adds sort of crackles and click noises occasionally. Both of these are to give the impression of a true old beaten up analog synth. Then the output of the filters goes to the VTA, vacuum tube amplifier, and I've got an overall volume for this, and this also provides a form of a wave shaping distortion. If I crank this up, you can decide how sharp or how harsh this distortion actually is. Then we have the two envelopes. Envelope 2 is for the envelope of the level of the signal. So if I turn this like so, we'll have a slow attack to our sound. Envelope 1 we source as a modulation. So if I go to the low pass filter and turn up the envelope 1 follow and put a slow attack on here, we'll hear the low pass filter change as the note is played. And if I dial it in the opposite direction, you'll hear that the filter goes in the opposite direction. I think I prefer that one. Then we have the modulation stage. Here we decide to modulate, well, pitch or VTO1 shape, VTO2 pitch, and the high and low pass filters. We decide upon the control source from here. So we've got envelope 1 and envelope 2. VTO1 and VTO2 can give some odd effects. If you put VTO2 down to the low range, it can behave like a classic LFO on a synth. But if I set this to VTO1 for now and start playing with this, it's going to be quite a drastic effect. Same goes if I even made it change the filters. So you can get some quite unusual but cool effects with this one. This is a almost slightly more conventional LFO option. The LFO itself is down here. You can see we have the frequency, and you'll see the light of this flash faster or slower accordingly. So let's make the VTO1 shape modulate its self according to the LFO. And then we have the arpeggiator. We can turn it on like so. We have the rate, currently set to 16th notes, and the direction. Let's turn this off for a moment. The LFO we saw a moment ago, but we can also make the LFO affect another parameter. We've got wah, for example. And now the modulation wheel controls the amount that the LFO adds a wah effect, or vibrato, or tremolo effect. One last thing to show you before we're finished with vacuum. If you double click on the little broken drive pot in VTO1, this will actually randomize all of your settings. It's a bit of pot luck, but it's worth trying if you're looking for a bit of inspiration. In our next video, we'll be taking a look at Structure Free, the sampler that comes again straight out of the box with Pro Tools.